Well, after a game-changing twist, the show is thrown to absolute chaos in a chilling and suspenseful episode that might be the best the show has ever done. Hey guys, coming up for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 15, Self-Control, and holy shit, what an episode. I mean, wow, this is an episode that I definitely want to get right into. Guys, let's just, right off the bat, this felt like a finale. I know that this obviously is not a season finale, but I'm just going to say it's a second finale because there's no other possible way this episode works unless it's like a finale. I mean, it works perfectly as a finale. I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. Let me just get that right out of the way. This, really, like I said, the LMD arc hasn't been my favorite arc, but I think as it's gone on, it's gotten better. And I have to say that even though I said it was a bit clunky, that is not compared to this episode. I mean, none of what happened in LMD arc compares to this episode because this episode, this is one in the books. I mean, this episode was absolutely incredible. It was thrilling. It was suspenseful. It was downright horrifying at points. And like I said in my intro, it may very well be the best episode the show has ever done. I mean, it really does have everything that makes up a great S.H.I.E.L.D. episode and more added to it in a really brilliant twist that I can't wait to get into, but also perfectly sets up the last half of the season. But let's just get into this episode because I definitely do want to talk about it because, wow, is there a lot to get into in this one. I mean, it's a very layered episode, and that's part of the reason why it was so great, but there's really a lot going on here. So we start off, and we see the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents lie unconscious, hooked up to the framework, and right off the bat, we can see that there are a bunch of, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents there. It's not just, Coulson and Daisy and Mac and, those people. It's not just them. As we know, yes, they are definitely LMDs, and May, of course, as well. We see that there's a whole bunch of them there, and basically Ada tends to this injured Superior, explains she's going to save him, and the Superior says he's not afraid to die, and Ada explains she needs him alive to protect the framework. He passes out, and Ada takes out a chain and says that he'll be many things as she starts cutting. And what's amazing about Ada in this episode is that, yes, it's been incredible to watch Ada throughout this journey, basically, be controlled, not really controlled, but be very restrained by Radcliffe. No, this is the first episode where Ada is operating entirely on her own. She's not letting anything happen unless she wants it to happen. She's not just going to let things, go, get in the way anymore. She's going to do exactly what she's intended to do, and she's going to do what she feels is best for her. And I really did love how self-sufficient Ada was, because, yeah, we definitely could have seen this coming, but it really does work. It's a very satisfying character. It's a very satisfying end for Ada. I doubt it is the end for her. I think we're definitely going to see a lot more of her as the season goes on. We'll get into that. But this was an incredible way to start off what is definitely an incredibly high-octane, thrilling, frenetic episode. So Fitz and Gemma watch the L&D simulations of their teammates moving throughout the base, and I mean, they are in absolute shock. I mean, just imagine this idea of half of your team aren't actually your team. It's a genuinely horrifying concept to think about, and the show really delves deep into that, and I really did love that, where Gemma wants to leave, and Fitz warns her that they can't let the LMDs know that they know what they are. He figures at their advantage that the LMDs don't know that they're onto them. He doesn't think that the LMDs know about that. He thinks, they're going to treat them like they're normal, and that's something I really love about this episode, that everyone treated, these LMDs in a smart way. No one really did anything outlandish, and you would have thought they did, but everything they did made a lot of sense. And Coulson comes in, well, at least the LMD Coulson, asks if Superior Submarine has missile launch capacities, and Fitz posists that they may, and Coulson says that they bring all the Inhumans there, and Simmons agrees just as Mace and Daisy come in, and Mace says that Daisy should contact the Inhumans and arrange their transport, and when Simmons reminds him about finding May, Coulson agrees, and Mace suggests that Simmons and him discuss the logistics in his office, and Fitz claims they've discovered some old Russian communication hardware, and he and Simmons should work together to determine if Superior is using it. Now, obviously, what they're really trying to do is to get get away from the LMDs and try to figure out this problem on their own, which I really do love the way they set this up. Because again, we left the episode thinking that, Simmons and Fitz are the only two members who haven't been affected, that those are the only two that are in fact human, and we'll get into that. But out in the hallway, Mace tells Coulson that they should scan and replace Fitzsimmons, and obviously, that would be the logical thing to do. They think that Fitzsimmons, they are the last possible options needed. The only people that haven't been replaced at this point are Fitzsimmons, and Coulson advises caution, warning that they're outnumbered, and Mace says that Daisy will contact the humans and bring them to the HQ, and then they'll just kill them. So as for the hardware they brought from Russian base, Mace will make sure that it's offloaded into Day for 1. Daisy arrives and says that they should get to Yo-Yo first. They contact her, and Mac warns that she's in danger, and they're coming to get her. And I swear to God, guys, all the best episodes Yo-Yo's in. Seriously, how have they not made her a main character at this point? I don't understand this at all. I don't know how Yo-Yo is as good as she's... she's great on the show. Like, she is fucking amazing on the show, and I love what we get from this actress, but they really need to consider making her a main character, because she's absolutely incredible on the show, and episodes like this really do show why she needs to be on the show full time. I know it's probably not going to happen because this is very well the last season of the show. There's really not much doubt. I'm pretty sure this is the last season of the show, but I loved the inclusion of her in this episode. All the best episodes really have had her, and this episode very much continues that. So the Coulson LMD finds the May LMD in her cell looking at the snow outside. She talks about her memories of skiing, but admits it's the first time she's actually seen snow. And this is also something I love, is that not only do they treat these LMDs like they're LMDs, but they give them genuinely emotional storylines where you're actually getting some emotional resonance from these characters, even though they are definitely the villain's episode. They are terrifying to think about. A Coulson LMD and it's crazy to think about, but we get this great scene where Coulson says that he hasn't felt so good in years. May realizes that he's been replaced, and that reveal when May realizes that he's not actually human, again, it's terrifying for even her to think about something like that. And he says that his programming is different from her, still has his mind, and understands the basic truth that their bodies don't matter. And Coulson says that Radcliffe built a world just like theirs, but with a little less hurt. And we finally get the reason why Radcliffe is really doing that, but he asks if May knows what her greatest hurt would be, says that he wonders what it would be like if he never signed up with S.H.I.E.L.D. and lived like a civilian, and Coulson says now the two of them can have a simple life, and in the framework they're already together, which again, this is something they've wanted all their life, and that's something that I'm guessing in the framework that they are getting. So Fitzsimmons takes the equipment down the hallway and discusses what happened, and we get this incredible scene which Elizabeth Henstridge and whoever plays Fitz, I can't think of the actor's name right now, but they acted the hell out of this scene. Fitzsimmons has always been one of the emotional focal points of the show. Their relationship has always been very well handled. This very well may be their best scene, though. I loved everything about this next scene because they figured that Radcliffe could have replaced anybody, not just Mac and Coulson and Daisy. Literally anybody could be replaced. So there's really not many people they can trust except for each other. And they enter the lab just as their LMD detector goes off. And Fitz claims a calibration device, and Simmons draws a gun on him, assuming that he's an LMD. There's no other possible option here. He has to be an LMD. And he assumes that she's the LMD and doesn't know. And Fitz figures that something always happens to separate them. That's his fault because he perfected the technology. He apologizes, and Simmons tells him to not make her feel bad for him. Fitz says he's not going to fight her because he's the bad guy no matter what, and offers to do whatever she says, and she literally tells him to pick up a knife and cut his wrist. And again, this is the kind of stuff they can get away with now. This is why it's so great the show is on at 10 o'clock. They can do these really violent things, but not just make them gratuitous. Like this, there really was no other way to do this. If he bled out, then she would have known that he's an LMD. So she can see if he has a metal substructure, and Fitz does so and collapses, bleeding from the artery. He tells Simmons to stay away from him, but she comes over anyway, and with that, he stabs her in the leg, and Simmons' gun goes off, and Fitz knocks her unconscious, and just seeing how easily she fell for it, you kind of do feel bad for Simmons because, yeah, the one person she cares the most about is Fitz. The one person who she'll do anything for is Fitz, and this episode really does get back into that great relationship that those two really do have. And even at a time when Fitz isn't really Fitz, she still is caring for him. She's still falling for their relationship together. And this episode really is kind of a tribute to their relationship, how far it's gone, what their relationship really means, and just how far they've gone as a couple in the show. I thought was extremely well done. It's one of the best things this episode does, amongst a bevy of other things, but it definitely is one of the standout elements of the show. So Ada then brings Radcliffe out of the framework after 24 hours, which is crazy to think about it. He was there for that long, but he says that there are changes. She says that she restarted the simulation to deal with the new subject's hurts, and he tells her that he could have lost his grip on reality if he was in the simulation when she did it. And she assures him that, he assures her that one of her prime directives is to keep Radcliffe safe, and another is to protect the framework. And he asks about the Superior, and Ada says that he's resting, and we know, obviously, that she's hurt him and things like that, but she reports that there are 4 LMDs planted on S.H.I.E.L.D, and eventually they will get brain scans of Simmons and Daisy, and then they will officially be complete. And that little reveal that Daisy is not an LMD is incredible. What I love about that is that it's so subtle. Like, it's not this huge reveal, holy shit, Daisy's not an LMD. It's just a subtle reference, or her saying, oh yeah, Daisy's not an LMD. It changes everything, really. It changes everything. They made us think throughout half of the episode that Daisy is an LMD, and we realize she's actually not. She's just kind of fit in with them, and basically has been forced to, and they don't know that she's actually, not an LMD. So Ada says that she didn't have the time to program them to forget what they are, and says the people will be killed only if they resist. So Daisy asks Mac if it's necessary for her to personally greet each Inhuman. He says that's more important than she thinks, and she goes to suit up. So the Fitz LMD hooks Simmons up and wakes her up enough to scan her brain, and she asks why he's doing it when he has Fitz's mind. Why would he be operating like this? And Fitz insists that he's doing it for the two of them. The sedated Simmons manages to break herself free, tries to crawl to a hammer, and Fitz insists that he's securing their future so that they can get married, and that's really why he's trying to do this. And the thing is, as much as she doesn't want to believe him, it's just too hard for her to do that. I mean, again, this is the man that she loves, and even when he's an LMD, she can't really separate that, and she points out it's the first time he's mentioned marriage. She picks up the hammer, hits his support, dropping a piece of suspended equipment on the LMD. She's not for once falling for this. She's just kind of gonna go along with it, and it shows that Simmons is not weak-minded. Like, she is a lot smarter than people lead her on to be, and I mean, we've known that Simmons has been smart for a while, but this was a whole other level, and I love seeing that. She grabs a knife, stabs her repeatedly in the chest, and Fitz begs her to stop. He insists that it's him, and she stabs him in the neck, and again, she's just not falling for it. So Daisy sends Agent Prince to tell Mac that she's checking the accommodations to the incoming Inhumans before they leave. Mac goes after her to the containment rooms. Meanwhile, Daisy finishes checking the spells and comes to a squad of inanimate Daisy LMDs that are just waiting to be operated on, which, again, is a horribly frightening sight. I mean, just everything about Daisy, seeing those LMDs, the look on her face, it's really chilling, and I honestly did get a little bit, it was definitely a little bit, threatening there. I mean, just seeing the look on her face when she's realizing what's really going to happen, her realizing what's really at stake, that's something all the characters really realize here, but the problem is it's just too late, and they just have to deal with it, and that's something this episode very well does show. So Mac arrives and sees Daisy's suit on the floor. He realizes that one of the Daisy LMDs is the real thing and inspects them. He knows one of them isn't really a Daisy LMD. She's just been acting this way so they don't try to come after her, which was probably one of the smartest things she could have done, which, you kind of understand why. I mean, literally her entire team was just dropping left and right and were turning into LMDs. She really had no choice but to play along, and even though she's not an LMD, Mac now has this information, and again, it's crazy to think about Mac going after Daisy like this, but you have to think about it as Mac is an LMD, and they do an incredible job with showing that here. He spots one with a loose shirt strap and prepares to shoot it. The real Daisy seismically blasts him. She grabs his weapon, her suit, and leaves, and this is a Daisy that is showing no mercy, and I loved seeing this side of Daisy, because Daisy's always had this emotional core to her, but she's also a badass, and what I loved in this episode, that they let Daisy be a badass. Not that they didn't in the first half of the season. I think they absolutely did. There's a lot going on with her and Robbie. The second half, she hasn't had as much to do, but this is the Daisy I love seeing. I love seeing Daisy be a badass. I love seeing Daisy, just kicking out people left and right and doing what she can to you know, protect herself. And I just love seeing this independent, you know, more violent and very aware side of Daisy. So she brings the camera to the lab where Mace, Coulson, and 3 agents have found the dead Fitz, and Mace tells the other agents that Simmons has been replaced with an LMD, and basically now they're going to make everyone else think that Daisy and Simmons are in fact LMDs. So basically, when one agent, Fisher, notices the exposed circuitry in the LMD's neck, Coulson shoots the other 2 human agents, and again, they're doing whatever they can to protect their cover, and Mace smashes Fisher when he tries to run. So Mac arrives at the lab, says that Daisy got away. Coulson tells him to patch up Fitz enough to fix himself, and Max says he's already given the order to cut the security feeds. Daisy loses the video, sees a trail of blood on the floor, and she follows it, finds Simmons hiding, and Simmons says that it wasn't Fitz, and insists that she didn't kill the real Fitz. There's no way she could have. So Daisy explains what she saw. Simmons warns that there's no way to know if they're LMDs until the others kill them, which again is a horribly, it's a horrible circumstance, really, because they really want to be able to know the difference, but you really can't. I mean, literally the only difference is that one has a metal plates and one of them doesn't, and that's the only way they can tell if they are in fact an LMD or not, and that's the unfortunate, that's really the unfortunate thing that Radcliffe has done, which is intentional too. You know, he did this to fool everyone, and that's, you know, what's so alarming about all this. I mean, it's really just, it's a very grim thing to think about, just seeing them go through this sort of situation, seeing this happen to them, you know, seeing all of their friends just turn into these LMDs and them not knowing what to do, but very quickly this turns into the Daisy and Simmons show, and I really did love seeing that. And because of that uncertainty that both Daisy and Simmons share, even though they're both stuck in this room together, they really don't trust each other, because at this point they don't know if the other is an LMD or not. So to prove that she is human, we get this incredible moment where Daisy asks for Simmons' hand. She'll quake her just enough to feel her bones. No proof she's a human because LMDs don't have inhuman powers, which again is something that was a huge flaw in Radcliffe's plan that he honestly probably could have, you know, had an upgrade to, but he really did not do that. But Simmons reuses, and Daisy grabs her, uses her powers, and they're both satisfied the other's human, and just the look of relief on their faces, realizing that finally they have someone who's not an LMD, and that these two can finally work together, and they can finally combat against the LMDs as a team, and not just, you know, do it on their own, is incredible to watch. And I really did feel satisfied here, because, you know, throughout a lot of the episode, yeah, Daisy's, you know, trying to do what she can to survive, and Simmons doing what she can, but this is the first time where someone is not an LMD. These two can finally work together, and I love that these two ended up being the survivors. I mean, it was very unpredictable that would be the outcome here, but these two are the ones who have to clean up the mess that Radcliffe and the Superior have created, and I love the way that was done here. I thought there was some incredible moments there, and it makes sense too, because they were setting up Simmons and Daisy. It just wasn't the main plot, and I thought it was honestly kind of genius that was never the main plot of this half of the season, but it was in the forefront here. It was just them setting up exactly what they were trying to do here, and I really did love seeing that. And I thought it was just incredible to watch. But Ada and Radcliffe then set a machine to build a robot body, and Radcliffe warns the Superior is not going to approve it, but Ada figures that he'll come around, and she says that she has been unable to find the logic in human behavior, and explains that her inability to understand has created a paradox. She was programmed to protect the framework, but also to protect Radcliffe, and in many ways she has done that, and the LMD says the greatest threat to the framework is Radcliffe, and suggests that he might experience regret and change her parameters to have her dismantle the framework. And honestly, as much as Ada is kind of the villain here, you can really understand where she's coming from, because we've seen throughout the show many times that Radcliffe has very much gone to the left sometimes, where he's like, oh, is this really the right thing to do? Have I really thought about this? You know, but he really hasn't had that moment where he's really realized the magnitude of what he's really trying to do. And finally, he kind of gets it, because Radcliffe laughs, says that he would never do that. He thinks that this is a good thing. He's giving people a replica of their life with less pain. So So in his eyes, he's doing the right thing, and he's not doing anything evil. He's doing this for, their benefit, and he's trying to help them. But Ada does point out their physical bodies are eventually going to give out, and they are going to decay, and that's something that Radcliffe would be responsible for. I mean, if there was ever anyone to break into the facility, or any police, they were like a police officer or someone like that, Radcliffe could end up in really serious shit, and this is just something that he really did not take into consideration. And Radcliffe says it doesn't matter. He believes in the concept wholeheartedly, and he's not willing to listen to any of the flaws. You can tell he's not willing to listen to anyone. Even his own creation, who he created to basically be his, to basically be her mentor and guide her through this, he's not even listening to his own creation and tells him that he'll live a long life. Basically, we see the LMD smiles, says that his statement fixes the paradox, and she can fix both problems. And in one of the most shocking but satisfying twists of the episode, she ends up cutting both of Radcliffe's wrists, slams him in the framework, tells him that he'll live a long life free of pain, and it's really a satisfying moment because, yeah, we should probably be feeling terrified here that, holy shit, Ada just basically killed Radcliffe, but she really didn't do that. Radcliffe, as I've said throughout ever since that reveal with Ada, I've always, felt that Radcliffe was very naive and didn't really understand what he really was pursuing, because again, in his mind, he had this great idea to preserve human life and find a way to keep them alive for a while and to make them, to make them feel less pain. I get why he was doing that, but he really was in over his head. He didn't think about the pitfalls that could, he didn't really think about the flaws or anything bad that could have happened here. It's a very bad situation that he was in, but it's a very satisfying moment because finally someone is getting him to wake up. Someone is finally giving him that reality check. Now, do I think that he's dead? No, but I do think this is the last scene we're going to see of Radcliffe, and it honestly was a very satisfying way for him to go out, with him realizing in that moment the flaws that his mission really did have, but in hindsight, it's just too late because Ada already is the one in control here, and I love that Ada finally is going on her own. So Mace summons the remaining agents, and Coulson tells them that Simmons and Daisy have been kidnapped and replaced. And again, you can see they're doing whatever they can to get people to go after Simmons and Daisy, because remember, you can't tell who is an LMD just by looking at them. You just have to know, who's an LMD, and Simmons warns Daisy that the LMDs will tell the HQ that they are LMDs and turn everyone against them, and Daisy figures that their team is still alive in the framework and they can be rescued. So they have to hack into the framework to find their people, wake them up, and learn where their bodies are, because there's not just, those agents. There are other agents in this episode. That's something that S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't really take into account, but there are, a ton of other agents in the show that we never see, because we always focus on Mac, or Daisy, or Fitz, or Simmons, or someone like that. We always focus on those characters. We never get to see the other ones, and we get to see them here, which again, it feels so big, much like a bigger story. It feels like it's finally the show coming full circle, and they did an incredible job with that. And Mace tells the agents to shoot some Mace so they can pull the data from their heads, and the agents head out, and Daisy spots canisters of sleeping gas, and Simmons starts to pass out. She insists that they can't fight the LMDs. She just feels there's too many of them, and that they're just too great of a threat, but Daisy says that she'll take them on, even though she doesn't have her protective gauntlets. And again, seeing Daisy so fearless, we know when she's Quake that this hurts her. I mean, we've seen throughout the season that when she turns into Quake, she breaks her arm, or she suffers, just this horrible pain, and that's something that she's gone throughout this entire season, and that's something that, again, that they've built very well here, that even with that pain, even with all of that, that traumatic rush that she's going to go through, she doesn't care. She's going to do what she can to survive, and Simmons tells her that she can't sacrifice herself, and Daisy insists that she's always known that Simmons and Fitz belong together. She said it's not how their story ends, and Simmons agrees to escape with her. She's not just going to let Simmons die. She knows that Fitz wants to be with her, and I love that she is so in pursuit of their relationship. Like, she really is for their relationship happening. Again, they did such a great job of making this episode an amalgamation of their relationship. I really love that. But Mace and Coulson head down the base. The wheeled drone drives out in the hallway. It crashes near Mace and Coulson. A canister explodes, releasing sleeping gas, and knocks out the other human agents. And Mace goes to take out the lights while Coulson gets May to prepare the contingency plan. And sleeping gas takes out the agents with Mac, and he sets explosives off and walks off. And Coulson goes to the office, tells May that it's time for her to enter the fight. She asks what he wants her to do, and after taking out the lights, Mace heads down the hallway. Daisy opens fires on him, but he shrugs off the bullets and shoves her back, and it's devastating to watch, really. I mean, we've seen the bond these two have. We've seen how much Mace has helped Daisy, how much she's helped Mace, and to see these two fighting against each other, it's just really sad to watch. And Daisy finally used her seismic blast on him, and again, she's doing what she can to get out of there. So Simmons finds the agents and gives them the antidote to the gas, and Mace and Daisy continue fighting. Mason says that they don't want to hurt them, but Daisy smashed him over the head with a piece of equipment. She's not for once falling for his what he has to say. So as the agents head down the hallway with Simmons in a cart of hardware, a suspicious Piper draws her knife. Daisy finally jams a syringe into Mace's back, shorting him out, and Mac and Coulson comes in and shoot her, says it's for her own good. They tell her to let them download her before she bleeds out. Daisy summons all her power, blasts them both back, destroying them, and just seeing Daisy in this episode, I mean, she really is losing power here. I mean, she's giving it everything she's got, giving it every single bone in her body, just everything she's doing to take out these LMDs, even if it means suffering excruciating pain. She doesn't care. She's doing what she can. And when the Mac LMD flies out the window, it lands in front of Simmons and the others just as Piper prepares to stab Simmons. Daisy staggers out. They send the agents to the hangar, and finally, they're able to get away from all the LMDs. It's such an accomplishment. I love the way that's done, and it really does all culminate to an incredible finale. So Simmons and Daisy then take the hardware to the access tunnel. They find May sitting on canisters of explosives, and this is the real May, and she calls Coulson and says she has him, says that Coulson said that it didn't matter that if they die, and May ponders the trigger device in her hand, says that either way she won't have to regret her decision. And I love that the May LMD is starting to wake up here. Like, she's realizing what's really at stake and realizing how bad of a situation this really is. She doesn't want to be a killer. She's just done what Radcliffe's told her to do. It's been in her programming, but just like Ada, she's really starting to gain consciousness and realize that this isn't a good idea. So once Coulson recovers, he finds if it's LMD, has him prepared to send the Daisy LMDs out with basic seek and destroy orders. He goes to the tunnel, but there's no sign of Simmons and Daisy, and Coulson asks May what she did. She said that she did what she wanted to do, and Daisy and Simmons take the hardware to the Zephyr. Coulson tells May that everything's under control. She asks whose control, and he suggests that they have a glass of scotch and talk it out like in the past, but May says they've never done it before, and she asks if Coulson's afraid to die. She says that she is, and the other agents arrive, help Simmons and Daisy aboard the Zephyr, and May says the pain and regret that Coulson feels no longer made him the person that she loved. And we realize in that moment that this is not the May LMD, this is the real May. It's such a well-done moment the way it was done. I love that this was the real May, and the Zephyr starts to take off. May says that her programming to get the Darkhold came from Radcliffe. However, her impulse to keep Coulson safe came from her, and that's something that she developed. And I mean, even though she's not the real May, she's starting to feel more and more like the real May, and she basically tells the Coulson LMD that it's not Coulson. She triggers the explosives. The Zephyr just managed to get clear out of the blast, and Gemma and Simmons then takes Daisy's hand, and basically there's this huge explosive that goes off, and Elena then ends up joining the team. Daisy explains that the framework is a duplicate of the entire world. They're going to plug themselves into their avatars inside the framework, hook up with their people, and find out where their bodies are being held, because there's no other possible way they can do this. They have to go inside the framework, because that's where 99% of the agents are right now. They're sleeping in this framework. So they prepare to hack in. Simmons warns Daisy that dying in the framework will result in their physical deaths in the real world. And again, they don't care. I mean, they're doing what they can to, end this once and for all. So the two women lie down on couches, and Simmons tells Elena not to pull them out no matter what, because it will cause permanent damage to their cerebral cortexes, and she activates the protocols, and we then get to this alternate world where the rest of the third half of the scene is going to take place, which there was a lot of uncertainty as to what was going to happen here, but it's such an incredible scene. I love the way we cut here. Daisy has long hair in this world. She doesn't have the short hair. She's back to like her long hair, like a la seasons 1 and 2. But she finds herself in a bathtub full of water. Her phone rings and discovers a text telling her to wake up her boyfriend because they're being called in, and she assumes this boyfriend has to be Lincoln. Who else would it be? But she gets out of the tub, and it turns out it's Ward in the bedroom. Yeah, she's dating Ward. Ward in this world. I don't know how that happened, but it did. Coulson, meanwhile, is teaching a class on Inhumans, or rather anti-Inhumans, and why we need to fear Inhumans, which very well juxtaposes to the scene in the beginning of the episode where Coulson's telling May that he wishes he could live a life without being an agent. He doesn't want to do this sort of thing anymore, even though that was the L.M.D. Coulson talking. As we know, eventually they do start to develop the feelings and emotions that their human counterparts do, and I think that's something that the real Coulson was kind of upset about, is that he doesn't really want to do this anymore. But Max at home with his wife and daughter, again, very well done scene. We had that great reveal in that one episode about his daughter, and to see him back with them is just, again, incredibly satisfying. Fitz and his new, but then we get to the most chilling, which Fitz and his new girlfriend go to a cemetery, and Simmons is dead. Yeah, Simmons is dead in this world, which Elena pointed out was going to happen, that one of them was going to die, and Simmons seems to be the one that's died. I mean, I guess she's dead. We don't really know, but May is, meanwhile, at a Hydra office building, and yes, Hydra is, in fact, alive in this world. And then we get to the end of the episode, which I really did love, where the Superior wakes up, discovers that he's completely uninjured, which is really strange, obviously. You know, they thought that they'd be affected, but Ada comes in, Superior grabs him by the throat. He figures that she uploaded his mind into a machine. Ada says his mind is untouched, and the LMD points out Superior's head inside a containment unit, explains he's controlling his android body remotely. She puts his dog tags around his neck, says that she needs him walking around protecting the framework. Her Superior's mind can feel human emotions, and with a perfect machine body is the perfect guardian. Ada says that he will feel joy when she can feel them herself, clearly wanting to start feeling actual human emotions, and finally getting him to, you know, go on her orders, and she's now the one in control of everything. And that is the way this epic episode comes to an end. But let's just get this episode and where we're going to go from here. So, holy shit, guys. I mean, what an incredible, epic episode this really was. This was everything you could want in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finale. I thought they did an incredible job with this episode, but it's not even the season finale. That's what's so amazing to me about this, is that it's not the season finale. There's still so many more episodes to go. I mean, there's still like 6, 7 more episodes left of the season. That's crazy. It's crazy that we have that many episodes left and we're already having an episode that feels like a finale. But this episode really gave us everything that we needed. It finally, you know, showed, it explored the LMD aspect perfectly. It gave us an incredibly disturbing situation, this very chilling sort of show we really haven't seen before, and it was a horror movie. This episode was a horror movie in every way, and it was incredibly well done. I love the way this episode was handled. It very much reminded me of The Thing, where, you know, throughout the entire episode, you don't know who's actually, who actually is infected and who's not. That's what this episode was. They didn't know, you know, who was an LMD and who was not. It's such a chilling concept, and it was incredibly well done in that regard. But now let's get to where we're going to go for the rest of the season, because obviously we're not done yet. Now, as we've seen, even though, you know, we have these characters in pods right now in this, in the framework, that doesn't mean that Ada's not doing things in the real world, because she absolutely is. I think Ada, she has her own agenda. She's going to get Superior to act on her own terms, and she's going to be the one in charge of everything now. You know, Radcliffe's gone. She's now put him under hallucination. You know, she's making sure that he's not, well, not a hallucination, but she's put him into stasis. She's going to make sure that he's not, working for her, and she wants to operate on her own. So who knows really what Ada's plan is, but I think it's going to be interesting to think about. And the way they've gotten us to care about Ada is really well done, because yeah, you could look at Ada and really dislike her, but I actually do feel contempt for her. I really do feel empathy for what she's going through. You can tell she's definitely developing human emotions, and she really isn't okay what's going on, and I'm really interested in seeing where Ada's going to go there. I think that's going to be very interesting as to what ends up happening there. But let's talk about this framework, because, oh my god, I mean, there's so much at stake in this framework, and I'm so happy where they're going here. Now, you could say this is definitely fan service, but again, this is an alternate universe, so they can do whatever they want, and Hydra is around here. You know, S.H.I.E.L.D's not around in this, in the framework, and I think that kind of is showing, you know, where we're really going here, because yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. Already was going through a lot of problems, so it makes sense that Hydra is where we're headed in the show. In fact, I'm hearing the last half of the season is called Agents of Hydra, which, if that's true, that's awesome. I hope that's true. But how did May get to the Hydra office building? What's going on there? Why is Coulson teaching a class on Inhumans? I mean, there's so much at stake that we don't know. How is Simmons dead? Is she actually dead, or is she just dead in this world? We don't really know. What got Daisy and Ward together? I mean, I really think that this is going to be a world where this is basically what happened. if S.H.I.E.L.D. was in fact dismantled, because as we know, back in season 1, S.H.I.E.L.D. stopped being a thing. You know, Hydra took over S.H.I.E.L.D. and S.H.I.E.L.D. basically was irrelevant. So I'm pretty sure this world is what happened if S.H.I.E.L.D. never came back together, if everyone basically went on their own and basically went away from S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm pretty sure that's where we're headed here. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but I think that's what we're really getting into. And we've alluded before to May joining Hydra. I believe there was like a thing in either season 2 or 3 where Ward approached her about this, so I don't really know what's going to happen here. There are just so many possibilities where this can go, and I don't even want to predict, because I'm just so interested in seeing where we're going to go here that I don't want to, really predict what's going to happen, because there's just so many possibilities they can go with that storyline. And then as far as what's going on with Elena, she's has this really incredible task here where I think she's going to want to wake up Daisy and Simmons at some point, but they told her not to. No matter what happens, don't wake them up. So who knows what's going to happen there. Elena's the only surviving member. Well, not the only surviving, but she's the only one who's in the real world right now. So I don't know what's going to happen there. If she's going to be the one to end up taking out Ada and stopping this whole framework, we'll have to see the way that goes. And then Radcliffe, I'm pretty sure this is the end of Radcliffe. I don't know if we're going to see him again a couple more times, but I do think this is the end of Radcliffe being this, manipulator and trying to be, play God and things like that, which is exactly what he was trying to do. But again, he was in over his head. He didn't really think about the consequences of what he was really trying to do. And Ada was the first person to give him a legit reality check, and it was such an incredible moment. I love the way it was done. Just so many great moments this episode. So many great things scattered throughout this entire arc. So much to say about identity and human emotions and just in general being in control of yourself and things like that, and why people need to feel pain, because if they feel pain, they'll feel suffering. And as we saw with Daisy, through her suffering, it strengthened her. It made her more powerful, and that's something that Radcliffe hasn't thought about, is that human pain actually does strengthen humans. It doesn't make them feel weaker, it makes them more powerful, and that's something that he really has not thought about. So you definitely do see that what Radcliffe is doing is not at all right. Overall, guys, I love this episode. This very well may be the best episode that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has ever done. I think this episode was just a culmination of everything that's great about the show. It had amazing action, some amazing moments, an incredible performance from both Chloe Bennett and Elizabeth Henstridge. I mean, those two actresses, Emmy nominations, honestly. I know they're not going to, but if there was an opportunity to give Elizabeth Henstridge an Emmy, this is the episode to do that. I mean, there's never more of an outcry for these two to get Emmys. And I'm not the first person that say that. So many people have said that Elizabeth Henstridge is the dark horse of the show. And I would very much agree with this. I mean, think about it. Almost every amazing episode focuses on either Daisy or Simmons, and this very well does show that those two really are the glue. One of the many great things about the show, but those two really are the two characters that we sympathize with the most, and the two characters that can do the best emotional work, and I think they handled that extremely well in this episode. This is one of the most intense, one of the most terrifying, and just overall maybe the best episode I personally think the show has ever done, and I am absolutely going to give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 13, Self-Control, a 5 out of 5 or an A+. Guys, this is it. This is the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that we have all been waiting for. I've loved this season, as you guys know. I think this is the strongest season that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has ever done, but this is the kind of episode that we need to see from the show. Such a satisfying, such an aware, and just such a merciless episode. This episode held nothing back. This episode did everything it could with the L.M.D. storyline. It explored all aspects of it, and it wasn't just action, action, action the whole episode. It was very, very human. It explored a lot of the aspects of, human ideology and why people have emotions and why people need to go through pain. And these things, it really just show how much Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., how different of a show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has become, how much it has evolved throughout the years. I mean, just think about where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started. This is really such a triumph to look at. I mean, really, it's incredible to see how far the show has come. It's incredible to see really what the show has matured into, because the show has matured immensely since it first started. It's incredible to think about, and this is really where the show needs to be. At this point, I don't know how the hell they top this episode. I really have no idea, and I'm completely fine if they don't do that. I was extremely satisfied with the way it's turned out. It puts us in a completely new direction. There's so many places they can go with the rest of the season. I can't wait to see where it's going to go, to the point where I don't really want to know what's going to happen. I just want to see how it plays out, and I've never been as excited for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode as I have been for the next one. There's so much riding on it, and I don't know if it's really going to deliver as much as this one did, but that just shows how great of an episode this really was. And really, when it comes comes to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this is the episode that really does show how great the show has become. I know the show is slowly losing viewers and things like that, but this is really an examination of what the show needs to be. It's a prime example of how great Marvel is with these stories, and from here it really shows that the show, in my opinion, this season at least, really can do no wrong when it comes to storylines. Even with the storyline with L.M.D. that I think I was a bit clunky at times, it delivered immensely. It was as satisfying as it could possibly be, and I can't wait to see where we really are going from here. So overall, guys, that's it for my review of this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Guys, we now have to wait till April, which I'm honestly fine with. I honestly am not that upset that we have to wait that long. I know a lot of people are saying that, oh, it's horrible we have to wait. I got the episode that I wanted. I got as satisfying an episode as possible. And this episode was satisfying enough, and it was incredible enough that I don't need another, I don't need to, I don't need the episode next week. I can wait a month. I'm completely fine with that. I want to be able to, let it marinate a little bit, think about the possible theories and things like that. Overall, guys, I have no idea where we're going from here. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. So much to talk about, so much great conversation to have here between all the incredible scenes. There are just so much amazing stuff in this episode. Also love seeing the actors play different versions of themselves. It's very hard to do, and the actors did an incredible job with it here. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Arrow, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.